Welcome, everybody, to the One Fear Per Year podcast, where we talk here about living our very best lives and walking through fear. And we have a Southern Belle on with us today, y'all. Kelly Swanson, thank you so very much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure.
So
It's
I was
nice to be here, and to everybody listening, hello. Grab a marker and color me excited that you care what I have to say.
Oh, and we do, because so I went on your LinkedIn profile, and the very first thing that I read is this, and I think it is so good and genius, and you'll have to tell us a little more about it. It says, if Dolly Parton and Brene Brown had a storytelling baby in rhinestones, it would be Kelly Swanson. So tell us a little bit about why that is. What makes you this Dolly Parton Brene Brown combo?
Well, if you know me for half a second, you'll know that I am absolutely over the top. I love to make people laugh and smile. I don't sing like Dolly Parton can. I love to talk about courage and fear and things that Brene Brown more eloquently talks about. And even more important, Janice, is for years, I downplayed my personality in my branding. And I finally was like, you know what? I cannot hide the fact that I am full on Southern sass, past the glitter, joking about my spandex. I finally embraced it full on. So, what you're actually seeing when you read my profile is a step of courage to go, you know what? I'm not going to paint myself. I'm going to show up to the world as I truly am. And we've gone even to the branding on the website to just, she's Southern sass, sweet tea and nuggets of wisdom disguised as comedy. And maybe if you knew Irma Bombeck back in the day, that's kind of I don't know. I'm fully embracing the role that I think I was put here on earth to play.
And why is that for so many of us, it takes decades usually to really um, garner that courage or want to step into our own authentic way of being, who we are? What do you think that is all about?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not all the way there yet. But I had heard, and now I get it, that the older you get, the less you start care, the less you care about pleasing others, about keeping up with others, about needing to look a certain way, needing to act a certain way. I think, especially in business, but I think outside of that too, we get so caught up on who we should be and what we should do and what do we need we to play the part. And I think there could be a lot of reasons why we do that. I think at our core, it's because we question who we are, and we feel like we're not enough. However, in the business world, it would make sense that people would go, don't lead with that. You do to some degree play a part. You know what I mean? I guess I'm contradicting myself because I think in different parts of our life, we do step into these roles that we have to play because society has put them on us. But I'm in my 50s now, and now I'm like, wait, or did I? Could I have played it my way all along? Now, if you know me from the outside, you're like, excuse me, that was conservative Kelly. That was buttoned up Kelly. So there's a whole new layer because it would have looked to others like I always did things my own way. But sorry to just be rambling. That's just a deep question, and I don't think there's an easy answer for it, except that I'm amazed at how many of us, especially women, you don't get that. I don't hear this from a lot of the men in my family, but the women questioning who they are and not feeling um, good enough, and that they need to be something else other than what they are.
Absolutely.
Imposter syndrome, that's very common. Women get all the way to the top in really high positions and still secretly behind closed doors, they're whispering that they feel like they didn't deserve this.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it really does, there's that theme of the not being good enough, of the worth comes up all the time in these conversations that I have about fear, that fear of not being good enough. And in your life now, I know you're a motivational speaker, keynote speaker. How does fear or does it present itself now in the things that you do in your life?
Well, personally, there's a lot of fear. I think we're living in a world right now where everybody's afraid to say what they think and what they believe and how they feel. So I won't go deep into that, but I think we're all facing fear to a great of how we show up. I'm not talking about being afraid of other things, but fear of being who we of offending somebody else. I think you're definitely seeing my fear of offending somebody else versus is causing people to hide their truth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, and in the business world, it's trying new things on stage. It's I want we're being told that our world is craving different experiences, new, innovative. And that's very fearful to do something nobody else has done before. It's so much safer to go, well, I'm going to go write a speech that makes sense. It's got 3 points in it, and then we all do that and we all water ourselves down. So to me, getting up on a stage and well, it's fearful anyway because you've got a microphone and you've got 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people all looking at you, grading you in their head, if not verbally. That's fearful. And I think all of us have been given some kind of stage and some kind of microphone and some kind of choice about how we show up and what we do with the moments that we're in. And I think when you're in a position of influence, which I think being a speaker is, you're held to an even higher standard where you really need to think about what you're saying. There's a lot of fear around that. There's a fear for me in, am I right? Am I correct? I'm standing in front of a group full of people who've been doing this. They're older than me. They have achieved more than me. They've done, who am I to be standing in front of them, telling them what I think they should do? There's a lot of fear
Yeah.
around that. I even was in a meeting recently with bankers, and one of the women said, wasn't so much around fear, but it kind of is. What do we do when they're men clients and they don't want to talk to us because they're women? They want to go talk to one of the men in the bank. And how do we handle that? And well, the first thing we all had to ask her as a group was, is that the truth or is that a story you're writing? That's where that's one important thing about fear. We feel fear as an emotion, and that's often not valid. It's not the truth. It's just a story we're writing and we're putting it on everybody else. It may not even be true. So that's what we first had to say was, well, are you even correct? Did they say that to your face? And did they so there's a fear too that women are bringing into the business world specifically in terms of, oh, these men don't care what we have to say. They'd rather hear it from another man. So there's fear there. There's fear in um, selling and negotiating. I don't know, is that full on fear, but it's scary to ask what you think you're worth or what you think your market perceives your value to be, which is more important. So how am I doing for my
Well,
list of fears? Those are a lot of fears.
there
And
are.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid right before I go hit that stage. You think I'm not feeling the butterflies and the adrenaline and this, will they like me? My fear is different now. I know I'm good at my craft and I know that, okay, so the joke's funny or not, whatever. But my fear is, will they approve? Which is so interesting that It's a fear of, will they like me or will they not? And I've had to start to unwrite that. You got to change the story. I'm like, this is not about whether they like you. This is about that person right there in front of you is not going to like you. And the one beside them is. And what are you going to do with that? You're kind of left back with the same, what are you going to do with that? You can't please everybody. You can't be everything to everybody. So what can you, and I'm at a beautiful place in my life, and COVID really brought me there, where I really realized the clock is ticking. The world felt completely upside down. So if I can't figure out how to navigate this, then I might as well do it the way I want to do it. And that's where I started saying, you know what, the runway is short, or whatever you call it, the remaining years I have. What were you meant to be? Who are you called to be? What is your highest level of joy? Go do that. And the fear, this is another one, then I'll shut up, sorry. The fear that will the money come? Will the work come if I do it this way? Am I killing any business that I might have gotten? Is being me enough to make a living out of it? And back to what's happening in our world, I think you're also having people weighing the fear, if I'm bold, this could be a job killer for me. This could be anyway, I don't think fear ever disappears. And I think it's an emotion we should honor. I think it could be a check engine light. It was meant for good, but this is your expertise, not mine. But we have to look at it when it's a story we're writing and assess it. Say, is this truth, or is this a story we're writing? And does this emotion need to be put in the back seat, and we need to replace it with what is the truth? And that's why I keep jumping anyway, is because I acknowledge that the fear exists. I take a look at it and I go, okay, this isn't serving me. It's not even true. Look at all the evidence that supports it to the contrary. Now we're going to put it in the back seat. Now let's write a story of hope and excitement, and let's write the better story, because you live in the story that you write. Period. Reality exists. I always joke and say I'm married to a prepper, and he's preparing for the end of the world, and I'm over here telling everybody the best is yet to come. And it's a weird power couple, but it's a great example of how two people can sit in the same house, in the same reality, and write a completely different story about it. Story is the prism you run your life through. Your life, I don't say it well because I haven't gotten the right words around it. Reality exists, but the way you experience life is a direct result of what story you write about everything that's going on around you.
Isn't that so true? Perception is everything. Reframing, what's the narrative? What's the story I'm telling myself that I'm clinging to for dear life, even though it feels like it's killing me from the inside out? And it's funny you say fear in the back seat, because I always say, to me, when I was really living trapped in fear, it wasn't even that fear was in the driver's seat. I wasn't even in the back seat. I was like in the trunk, gagged and blindfolded is how it felt, like this complete prison that just held me back from living an adventurous, courageous, exciting life that I believe is meant for each of us.
I do too. And you were in the trunk because you didn't even realize it. You didn't realize that the power was in you. So many people they feel victim. They feel, and I mean, they feel like they don't have any power, that all these things are causing them to feel this way. And so I get it. I get it. And a lot of especially our kids, nobody's teaching people like you are, but who's teaching the kids? They don't learn this in school. They're not taught this growing up. You can't just tell everybody, have a better attitude. We were talking about attitude somewhere. You just need to fuck up. You need to have a better attitude. Well, okay, good luck with that. And maybe they can, but they need to be taught how to rewire their brain, how to reprogram and figure out what it's saying, and how to switch it and make it a mantra and make it a habit and make it a new belief system. And nobody's teaching our kids. Half of us as adults can't have it figured it out.
Well, and I will add on to that because I did so much therapy and all kinds of therapy that what I discovered was uh, hypnotherapy actually really helped me because it went into the depths of my subconscious. So there's a lot, like you're saying, just telling yourself, do
Right.
this, have a good attitude. When you have all these beliefs and fear that you don't even know exists, you're not even aware, to your point, that you hold the key. And that is when my life started changing, with switching from that victim blame mentality to I am the common denominator in my life and I need to do something differently, not everybody else, because I was really good at the blame game. um, but I want to talk about this kind of fear of failure in a sense, because I know we deal with a lot of perfectionism.
Yeah.
And you have such a good story about being on stage. And would you just briefly tell the story? Uh,
Oh, oh, I know which one you're talking about.
okay.
I'm like it. Well, it's hard to make it brief, but I'm in like a room full of. First of all, I got the whole audience mixed up. I think it's going to be somebody else. I think it's going to be women in glitz and glamour and sequins, and I'm so excited. I'm ready. I'm glammed up. I'm spanked up. I got on my eye wigs, my eyelashes, and my fingernails and my bun topper, and I am just ready to go. Walk in a room full of men wearing khakis and conference polos and hugging their binders like they're going into battle and get up on the stage and do my thing. Turns out, by the way, it was not the group of women I thought it was going to be. I looked the acronym up wrong. It was engineers. So if you think I'm over the top anyway, put me in a room full of engineers and they're all like, who let the drag queen in? And I'm up there talking and doing my thing. And all of a sudden, under my feet, I feel something I haven't felt before. I was like, this isn't, you're, as a speaker, you're thinking of all these different things going through your head, what I said, what I'm going to say, what I forgot to say. Why is that person sleeping on the back row? Does my hair look good? All these things. And this new one, I thought, what is that feeling under my feet? It was it was air. Janice, it was air under my feet. I'm thinking, now I hadn't felt that before. What had happened? And boy, that's when everything totally went into slow motion. Like one of those slow motion moments, because I have walked right off the front of the stage. That stage is about 4 or 5 feet tall. I've walked right off the front. I mean, still talking, still legs moving just like Bugs Bunny before the anvil hits. The audience is looking up at me like, oh, good Lord, who's going to have to catch her? They're in complete shock. And I'm like midair, and, and I'm thinking, I remember the one thought I had was land on both feet. And thank God I had on boots, because if I'd had on heels, I probably would have broken something. But I was like, land on both feet and bend your knees, land on both feet and bend your knees. And sure enough, once gravity finally took over, bam, I landed on both feet. I bent my knees. I'm crouched down. I'm like looking at, then I threw my hands up in the air. I was like, ta-da! Like I just dismounted on the balance beam. They were like, oh, they fell out. They started laughing. They're banging the tables. They're laughing at that and laughed at art since Windows 95. And then, no, this is the best part though, because I'm a genius. I had this line in my back pocket for probably 30 years, waiting to use it. And it was now in that moment when I looked at the audience and I said, I will now take questions from the floor. But yeah, it's not too many people can say they walked off the front of the stage. Now that's actual fear. That wasn't a story I was writing. I was officially walking off that stage. Who does that? Who
Well,
is what you do? You walk off the stage.
just to be fair, though, that could be a fear of somebody's like worst case scenario, right? With it
Yep.
tripping, falling, all of these things. And my point here is you turned something that, had you thought and knew that that was going to happen prior to you getting on that stage? Oh, the feelings, the anxiety, the worry, the whatever. But when you're in the moment and then something crazy happens, which you could call failure or
Yeah.
whatever, a fall,
Yeah.
something unexpected, but you were in the moment and you were able to kind of even capitalize on something that could have been viewed as a negative thing, and you made it this beautiful, brilliant one-liner. I'm sure everybody was, you relieved tension in the room because laughter is one of the best things for that.
Well, hey, I want to say you're bringing up a very good point, and I want to add a couple of pieces to that with this story. I am convinced that me walking off that stage will be remembered by that audience longer than anything else I had done, proving the point that people don't notice normal. They don't that proving the point that my failure was actually the thing that made me memorable. And what I have learned over the course of my career, now mine, and you're lucky, remind me to go back what I've learned about being imperfect, but you're also lucky because you obviously grew up in a household, a world, of city, whatever, where working on yourself was something people did. Not all of us grew up that way. Some of us have got a lot of catching up to do. A lot of people I still know wouldn't go to therapy. They see that as weak. They see that, they're not used to working on themselves. We've come back with I read the healing code about cellular memory and it just blew my brain open because a lot of us were taught in the South where I was from, we were taught you got to shove that you know what down. You just smile and you shove it down. So a lot is really buried deep. So I applaud those not applaud you, but you're fortunate that those of you that grew up where this was part of your culture was working on yourself, and because there's still a lot of people who are not aware of what power they have. But I want to say in my now I'm going back to what I said. Remind me, I remember when I was a kid, going all the way back to my own childhood. I was the picked on kid, the bullied kid who was never accepted, who was never, and I can see how that's manifested in my life today, how I still act in a whatever. I know where it comes from and where these feelings are rooted. So for much of my career, and this was not a choice. I did not choose to go do this. I was going to get married and have kids. I mean, that was the plan. None of this did I see coming. None of this. People are like, oh, you got a theater show, your dream come true. I was like, what are you talking about? This was never part of the dream. I'm surprised. I'm surprised I'm anywhere doing this. But in the course of going through that and questioning myself, and am I good enough? And do I have the right to be here? And blah, 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 blah. And am I? I learned that my gift is the imperfection. It is the unpolished. It is the wackiness. It is the showing up to you as I am. Okay, granted, with a bun topper and fake eyelashes, but coming in as me, it became my secret weapon. When people saw, I mean, it really, Janice, it was like my secret weapon in business was I'm going to come in here and I'm not going to be perfect. And I'm not going to be cookie cutter and I'm not going to play by all the rules. I'm just going to come open my jack it up, so to speak, and get real and vulnerable and authentic. And man, I had no idea how that was going to be able to create connections with the people in my audience. It was amazing. Amazing. The messier I got, the better I did. So to anybody listening, uh yes, okay, I'm not the first to say this, but in your mess may become your message. In your fail, your people don't want perfect. However you're impacting and influencing people, it's not in your perfection that'll do it. It's in your ability to be real and raw and admit when you're wrong and be silly and whatever. I'm rambling, but
I
that was
I
pretty
could not
cool.
agree with you anymore. I mean, the gifts of imperfection. Speaking of Brene Brown, and yeah, that is relatable. We all want to feel like we're not the only ones struggling with certain things, and so it is that point of connection. And one last question, because the time has flown by with you, man. I wish I had much longer. But I ask everybody this. What to you is the opposite word of fear? If you could choose one word.
I'm torn
Okay, two.
because the answer that came, technically, I would say the opposite of fear is peace and contentment. but hope is the word that sprang up first. Fear and hope. So I'd have to think about, is that the opposite? Well, it is. Fear is afraid of what's to come, and hope, they're both about things that haven't happened yet or that you can't see. So fear is being fearful of it, and hope is being hopeful for it. I would say there are probably many answers, but I would say hope is a good one.
I love that one. That is, yes, because fear, it's all forward, future stuff. And to have
Yes.
hope is future, but the opposite emotion of fear. That, look at that. I love it. And I just want to note before we wrap up that Kelly and I did not plan this, but we wore leopard. Look, you have a leopard scrunchie thing in, and I have this leopard sweatshirt, and aren't we the cutest? And I
We are the cutest. We are the cutest, even though I'm not even sure I drew my eyebrows on straight. But so if this is a virtual podcast, color me suspicious. That's just my eyebrow. I'm not suspicious. It's just my eyebrows aren't drawn on right.
Kelly, this is why I tattoo my eyebrows on. So we're all good.
Hey, that's how the other half lives. I'm going to do that one day. But knowing me, I'd go to a cheap tattoo person, and then I'd look permanently suspicious.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Go out, live your best, most authentic, connected, creative, beautiful, and amazing life that is meant just for you.